Okay, what's up? This is Alonzo with the Weekend Weebs. This is my first. Let me start with the date. October 23rd, 2023. Um, this is my first attempt at trying to do a solo video covering anything anime or manga related. So I thought I'd give it a try and try covering Kagurabachi, which is a new Shonen Jump manga. Um, It's only been out for about 6 weeks. I think chapter 6 just came out today or yesterday or whenever. Um, very new. You may have seen some memes or jokes about it. I don't know. Not I don't know. Um, one take. This is not a joke video or a meme video. I'm gonna be not really serious, but I'm gonna make jokes. But this is a serious video of me talking about the actual story of Kagurabachi. I'm not just gonna be doing meme stuff. So let's just get into chapter 1. I'ma just kind of as I do more of these, I'll probably figure out how I'm gonna do a timeline. I think starting off today, I'm just gonna do a summary and my main points at the same time because I think it'll be much easier to follow that way. So let's just get to it. So chapter 1. We got the introduction of two of our main characters. But let's start here, though, because this is the setup for the rest of the story. So we have the main character, Chihiro, who you see on the front cover. Don't know if that's how you translate. That's how you pronounce his name. I don't know if it's Chihiro or Chiro. I don't know. I'm gonna call him Chihiro, though. So we got him here with his dad. Just, his dad is set up to be kind of like a goofball, kind of like the irresponsible guy. But, when he gets down to it, he's serious. So, one of the first main points and important details about the first chapter is that Chihiro's dad was the most famous swordsmith. And by the way they talk about him, probably ever. He's the most famous swordsmith in the land, which we don't know what the land is exactly or where these events take place. I assume just Japan. Most famous swordsmith. And according to, I don't need to wait. I can just talk. According to Shiba, who is a old war buddy of Kunishigi and who visits the house all the time, family friend basically. He was even more important than the people who fought in the war. He even says that he ended the war. He's known as the hero of the war, even more so than the people that fought, because that's how amazing he was as a swordsmith. And, Chihiro, our main character, the son of Kunishigi, knows how respected his dad is and is dedicated to being a great swordsmith just like him. And Chihiro's mom, absent. I'm just going down my main points at this point. I'm not even gonna. This is basically a summary of the story at this point. So yeah, Chihiro, responsible kid. I'm pretty sure 14 at this time because his dad says that you're about to be 15, so he's 14. His dad is kind of an irresponsible guy, but he's very serious about creating swords. And mom is absent, so I don't know. If maybe we don't know anything about his mom so far up to chapter 5. We just know that he has a dad, but there's been even no mention of a mom. So this might be like a One Piece kind of story where like we just don't care about moms because moms aren't fun or something. According to Oda, or it might be just that the mom will come into play at some point. It'll be some kind of like childhood backstory. She died, maybe, or maybe she's just a deadbeat. Who knows? But so far, no moms. Yeah. And we do know, just based off of timeline and what they were saying, that Chihiro was either conceived right after the war. Well, he was born definitely after the war, but yeah, conceived either right after the war or near the end of the war, because the war was 15 years ago and he's 14. So it had to be somewhere around the same time of the war ending that he became, a creation of life or whatever. um, Another main point, Kunishigi kept the swords from the war in the basement, which is, interesting. Um, there's a couple of things interesting about Kunishigi. Like he has like this foil of being like a not serious guy, but when it comes to his swords, he is like very serious. Um, he even goes as far as to say like he takes so much accountability for who uses his swords and what happens to them, and we learn later on in the same chapter why. If you make magical swords and they like overpowered and like massacre tons of people, it would make sense why he would be so protective of them and take so much accountability on who gets them. Um, so yeah, he kept his swords in the basement, which comes into play in another chapter as to that why that even matters. What else is there? He also says that so yeah, these are basically the words I think that end up shaping. These are basically the words that I think end up shaping Chihiro the most. His dad says that katana should be wielded by those dedicated to vanquishing evil and protecting the weak, and that goes for us too. Us meaning swordsmiths, meaning that we have to take, we have to have principles and accountability. And one of the main things that I find interesting about Chihiro is that I can't yet tell whether he's he's going to be like a hero or if he is more of an avenger, or like where his morals lie in terms of like what he's doing. Like obviously his motivation is to get the swords back that his dad made. That's like his number one priority, I would say. At least I think, because they also killed his dad, and he doesn't, in the end of this chapter, he doesn't really say like I just want to get the swords back and that's it. He says he wants to cut the people down who stole the swords and ultimately killed his dad. So it isn't necessarily just about getting the swords back, because he definitely wants to kill people and get revenge. And Shiba even mentions, that he's been at this for years. I can't remember the exact amount that goes by. Yeah, 3 years and 2 months. So yeah, he's been at this for years, trying to find out who stole his dad's swords and who killed his dad. And it's just like, I don't know if it's gonna be the type of story like revenge story like Berserk, where obviously the eclipse, something bad happens, and then the main character goes on this journey where they're just like killing people. I don't know if this is like his guts before accepting that he should be trying to help Casca and take responsibility for Casca, like that era of guts where he's just like angry all the time and just only killing people or apostles and just constantly killing people, trying to get the Griffith so he can ultimately kill him, or if Chihiro is already past that point or never even is at that point and he's really just trying to get the swords back. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, Chihiro, wanted to be just like his dad in terms of being a good swordsmith. He wanted to take on the responsibility, take on the accountability of selling people swords, and he was willing to do that. But as we now know, his dad died. Time skip, 38 months, 3 years and 2 months. We have Chihiro, who's now 18. He has a big scar on his face, and he's not living in the city. I'm pretty sure he like went to the city on purpose. But he's at this city where the Kurogumi, which is a Yakuza group, are ruling it, and they're being backed by sorcerers to basically like bolster their power and keep people in line. So Chihiro pulls up to this place, and there's like, well, there's stuff before he pulls up, like people getting beat up, and then it shows one of the sorcerers who uses like tree magic, um, basically solidifying how bad these Yakuza are. And then when they pull up to the city, there's people hanging there um, as like a showcase to show like don't mess with the Yakuza, basically. Um, and I think that's what makes Chihiro decide. And this part is what he says before that is what makes me think that either he has a very specific set of people, excuse me, either he has a very specific set of people that he wants to get revenge on and kill, cut down, or, you know, he isn't really set on necessarily killing everyone. Because in this part, he says, we'll check out and see if the Yakuza are reasonable. And if so, we'll propose a deal. So he isn't necessarily anti-crime. You know, he isn't necessarily just like a do-gooder hero. Like, he's not like All Might, just like standing for justice and, you know, gonna beat up or take care of anyone who's doing anything wrong. You know, he has his specific targets and people that he's aiming for. So, you know, I wouldn't really call him just like a pure hero from that standpoint. But once he finds out, you know, or not finds out, but really just sees this display of people, you know, being hung by the Yakuza, he's like, okay, yeah, like, they're scumbags, take me to their base. I'm not like he's not gonna try to reason with them, obviously. Because why would he even try, you know? But I still don't think necessarily that he stormed the base and started killing them because he had a personal grudge against them because they were scumbags. I think it was more like, I know these people aren't going to work with me. So, like, I'm just going to go ahead and kill them because there's no point even trying if they're doing all this. And he was right. So, yeah, they pull up. He just starts slicing everybody with his sword, getting the job done, basically. And then Shiba's in the back. I will say one feat of strength that I saw in this chapter, besides him like completely destroying everyone, like being super fast, but he threw his katana through this guy's neck and killed him. And I was like, at first I thought this was Shiba, and I was like, oh, like Shiba's really strong. But then Shiba says, I'll take these guys, and then he goes and grabs the sword. So it was his sword. He threw it, and I was like, dang, like, you got to be really strong to throw a katana straight like that and pierce someone's neck and then have it stick into the wall and then be fast enough to go and catch up to it in the next instant and then slice everyone down. Like, that was ridiculous. And then he goes on to just kill everyone in the whole entire base anyway, so it's whatever. So yeah, and then he comes in and he's like, I can't allow slime like you to wield katana. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's mad because they just have katana and they're scumbags. You know, if they were scumbags who didn't hold katana, would he be mad at him? Or would he kill them or go as hard as on them as he did? I don't know. But, you know, he seems specifically mad that they're wielding katana. Like, he literally says, I can't allow slime like you to wield katana. So, you know, would he have burst in here and killed them all if they were holding guns? I don't know. You know, I'm really trying to get a feel for his, like, moral standpoint. And then this is where we get the first showcase of the magical blades, I should say, that his dad made. And I forgot to mention earlier that there was this little thing with goldfish. His dad bought like these 3 goldfish, and Chihiro was like, well, his dad was like, "Whoa, look, these I got such a deal. Like, these are so cool." And Chihiro was like, "If like, it's whatever. Like, you're not really a responsible guy. Like, I'm probably gonna end up taking care of these goldfish. So he wasn't very excited about them, but his dad was so excited, and he was just explaining, you know, what the merchant who sold him the goldfish were saying. Like, there was three. So there's a red one. He said the red one attracts good fortune, the black wards off evil, and the multicolored one is just totally amazing. Is like, I think verbatim what his dad said. So fast forward now to present time. Chihiro is about to pull out his sword, and then Shiba goes, Kunishigi Rokuhira imbued his katana with sorcery. So this is our second example of what we're calling sorcery, magic, whatever you want to call it. Besides the tree guy. So we know that swords can be imbued with sorcery. But they also noted that Kunishigi was also the most famous swordsmith in the land and helped end the war with his swords. So I think it can also be assumed that he was the only one who could do this process of making swords. It did say he had a special process of making swords. So I assume that the only magic swords were made by his dad. And those are the only ones like out there in existence. But I'm just assuming based on what we know. So yeah. Shiva goes on to say the katana he made were enchanted blades with special powers. And then Chihiro pulls out his blade and he says Enten. And I looked up the word Enten because I don't know. I don't know if it's just like a Japanese word or, if it's a made up word or anything. So I look it up, and then turns out, I mean, according to Google Translate, it's Danish, I guess. It's a Danish word for either. So then pulls out the sword Enten, and then you can see, the black fish and the multicolored fish are like swimming around as he pulls out the sword. So yeah. Shiva says the katana that Chihiro is using was his dad's last katana, and he gave his life to make it. I don't understand that exactly, like how he gave his life to make that sword. Maybe it's a figure of speech, like he worked really hard on it, but I have no idea. So yeah, he says Enten or either, and then black. So I guess that means what I'm assuming about the swords based off of this is that it's gonna have all three like goldfish in it. I think it's gonna have the red, the black, and the multicolored, and then he's gonna say either, and then choose which fish's power, I guess, is gonna go with it. So the dad said black wards off evil. Evil. Black wards off evil. So he says black. It goes black. The sword goes black. It's like Getsuga. And then I guess he wards off evil because he just slices through literally everyone in the room. Like, this panel shows it, a line of people. There's at least like, I don't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like, I don't know. There's at least like 12 people standing in front of him or something. And he just slices through all of them like in an instant. So I'm gonna guess that black is gonna ward off evil. It's probably gonna be just like a super like dispel cutter type of thing. Red attracts good fortune. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen him use red. He might have used it in chapter 4 or 5 against one of the sorcerers, but we're not even there yet. We'll see what that one does. Multicolored, I don't know what that one will do either. So yeah, slices through all these guys. He does like an insane like side flip or front flip. Cuts a bunch of people in half, cutting arms off, just basically slaughtering everyone in the base. Like, as you can see here, this is like a Guts 100-man battle caliber level right here. He's just slicing literally everyone in the room. Like, oh, and then he uses the multicolored one. It says Nishiki. I think I tried to look up Nishiki and nothing really popped up, so I don't know what that word means. So yeah, fast forward. Everyone's dead. He killed everybody. He got him. Everyone in that room is dead. There's probably at least like 50 people in that room. So I guess this also says something about his character, is that he doesn't really have an issue slaughtering people, especially I guess if they're bad people. Bad in his eyes, I guess. But he did leave the hostage alive. Is something that was interesting. Um, so yeah, he pulls up on the leader, and he's like, "What are? What is he saying? What does he ask him? Oh yeah, he says, "Tell us what you know about the Shaku." So we know this is. It's revealed here in this panel who he's looking for. So he's looking for the group of sorcerers that are backing. I don't know if they're backing this specific Yakuza group or if they're backing a bunch of different Yakuza groups. Which, I mean, if I was a group of sorcerers, I'd probably diversify my assets, I probably wouldn't just be in the Yakuza business. I'd probably be in a bunch of businesses. So yeah, he asks him, yeah, where the group of sources backing you? And basically threatens him, like, if you don't tell me, I'm going to kill you. But seeing what he just did to everyone else, he's probably going to kill him anyway. So this guy right here, he says the Shaku, they're monsters. Basically, like, you're crazy if you want to fight them. They're literally can do sorcery, probably evil or whatever. And he's like, obviously, you saying that to him, thinking about it is kind of ridiculous. Like, you saw him just kill literally all your men. Like, he just killed like 60 people. You think he cares that they're monsters? No. If a guy kills 60 people in front of me, I'm not gonna try to, you know, talk to him. I'm not gonna try to like talk him down from this. Be like, nah, man, you don't want to mess with those guys. Like, no, I'm giving them up. I'm snitching. I don't care. He just killed so many people. You think he's gonna care that they're monsters? No. And in this panel, he says like, I have to cut them down. Like, I don't care that they're monsters. So it is obviously, as you can see, more personal than just trying to get swords back. Although, now that I think about it, I might be jumping ahead. I don't even know if they even mention in this chapter that they were looking to get his dad's swords back. So I might be jumping ahead a bit. But I know as a reader who's caught up that he's trying to get the swords back. And now I just want to go back a little bit and go over some other points. Shiba said something interesting up here. I got to get to it. While they were on the train, he was saying like, yeah, he was like, well, first let me go before that, because I want to kind of paint Chihiro a little bit, and like, although he's like an Avenger, and obviously he's very serious, kills a lot of people, he still isn't like completely devoid of like positive features or emotions, even though is a very like boring looking character. And by boring, I don't mean like he's a bad design, but like he looks bored a lot of the time, or just like in a glum, depressed mood. Like, and I guess, if your dad dies, you don't really have a mom. Makes sense, and then you're just going around killing people. Yeah, you don't look the happiest. But despite that, he still has positive, fun features at times. Like, he's a serious guy, walks around with the glum face, but like he still has like the sense of humor to be like grilled smelt. Like he still has like the thought process to go like, I've never seen a guy walk around eating grilled fish. So he's not a completely serious, always think about killing character. He still has positive emotions and features, and still thinks things are funny or interesting, and he's not just always thinking about killing. So I thought that was a good thing to add in, just to get a vibe of who he is as a character, just to know he's not always thinking about serious things. And Shiba, he's like, this is another important part. he's like, the scar on your face, like you can get it removed. And he's like, why? It really stands out. Like, why don't you get it removed? And he's like, um, this is like one of the funniest panels in the manga in the chapter 1 for me. But he's like, when I wash my face and look in the mirror, I see this scar, and I remember that day. And as a future manga reader, I know what that day means, but you don't know if you've only read chapter 1. So he says, I keep the scar, so every day I start my morning with fresh hatred. And that's just like a really like funny line to hear. Like starting your morning off with fresh hatred, like as a cup of Joe, like that's funny. But I guess it also kind of shows his character in a way. Is like, if you really hate some people, this, if you really have like real true hatred, you don't really need a scar to remind you of that hatred, because you're already thinking about it. You don't really need a reminder. Like, again, like I just got done reading Berserk like a month ago, so I'm probably gonna reference it a lot. Like, Guts didn't need his mark of sacrifice as a reminder that he hated Griffith and apostles in general. Like, it was an added bonus. Obviously, it kept him sleep deprived for like many, many, many months until he met Shirk. Like, there were so many chapters long where he just like was not sleeping at all, only sleeping during the day if he could. Like, he didn't need that mark though to remind him that he hated Griffith. But Chihiro saying specifically, like, yeah, I could get it removed, but I keep it to remind me, it kind of makes me feel like, I don't know, like, is he really doing this for him? That's kind of like the energy it gives me. Obviously, there's only 5 more chapters after this, and we haven't gotten enough of his character to really know. But like, it makes me question whether he's really doing this because he really feels it and wants to do it, or is he doing it because he feels like he has to, or there's like just some sense of responsibility that he has to. And I guess, that kind of is there already with his dad saying like there's a lot of responsibility and accountability and being very serious about being a swordsmith. And maybe it is just like that, like he's just trying to live by his dad's words and make sure that no one else is wielding his swords and doing evil with them. And it may not even be that he's necessarily super passionate about that, but I mean, especially, his dad dying, it's like maybe he just feels like he has to see it through, and he doesn't necessarily really want to. It's kind of more of a moral need of anything. So I thought that was interesting. And I think this panel is just as interesting because Shiba's like, you've been living like this ever since then, which is, about 3 years. It's gonna break you. So basically, he's been doing what he's been doing what he did in the last few panels. Killing people and trying to get information for the past 3 years. And she was like, "Yeah, like that's gonna break you." And then Chihiro's like, "So, like, you want to stop me?" And then there's just like this awkward silence, and Shiba makes like this like funny face, and then Chihiro's just like, just has like a straight face, and then that's it. And then they get off the train and go about the business that they did at the end of the chapter. Because I've been trying to get a read on Shiba with like, I know he was a friend of Kunishige Chihiro's dad for 15 years at least. That's just at least. That's not even counting the time that the war took, which we don't know how long the war was. But they've known each other since that war, so it was at least 15 years that they knew each other. Obviously, that was his friend, because he wouldn't be visiting him all the time or enough to see Chihiro grow up if he wasn't visiting him enough. So I could see his motivation for wanting to look after Chihiro, being as he's kind of like that family friend, uncle type of guy, but he obviously doesn't really want to do this per se. Like, I don't think Shiba wants to go around killing people and extracting information. I think he's just watching over Chihiro. Excuse me. And I don't know if that's gonna their dynamics gonna come into play more. And I'm trying to find like different characters from different series to compare this dynamic to. Cause like he doesn't want Chihiro to do this, but he also doesn't want to stop him from doing it. So it's kind of like, that tug and pull. Maybe he's helping him just, to make it get done faster so Chihiro can move on with his life. Maybe that's what he wants. I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll see more develop from their relationship. I'm still trying to get a read on Shiba as a character. But let me see if I have any other points here. I think that's it. Yeah, I think I covered all my main points. So why don't I just get into my review? This chapter 1, I think was a really good way to start the series out in terms of just, I think it was pretty straightforward. We get, to meet our main character. We get the main character and we get his main goal. We get to see a little bit of what he can do. We get a little bit of world building in terms of how things go down with organized crime and Yakuza, sorcery. We get a little bit of power scaling in terms of just like Chihiro and his, sword abilities and speed. We get a different type of sorcery with the tree magic. I'm sure there will be other types of sorceries. Well, I know because I've read farther ahead. Overall, I think chapter 1 was really good. I think a decent chapter, and it did a good job of just setting up the story for what it's to come.